Good morning, students. Today's topic is education as a producer and consumer goods. This topic's objectives are to promote and protect the right of consumers, to be established consumer protection council at the central and state level, to provide speedy and simple redressal to consumer disputes by establishing consumer courts. This act may be called the Consumer Protection Act 1986. It extends to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And introduction of consumer education is consumer education is the preparation of an individual to be capable of making informed decisions when it comes to purchasing products in a consumer culture. It generally covers various consumer goods and services, prices, what the consumer can expect, standard trade practices, etc. In these consumer education, while consumer education can help consumers to make more informed decisions, some researchers have found that its effect can drop off over time, suggesting the need for con- continual education. In these consumer education, new dimensions of consumer education are also beginning to emerge as people become more aware of the need of ethical consumerism and sustainable consumer behavior in our increasingly globalized society. And next, the background of the consumer education. Consumer education is an education that can found in several areas of study in the formal school curriculum and incorporated knowledge from many disciplines, including economics, game theory, information theory, law, mathematics, and psychology. And the background of teaching, the subject is considered important as the body of literatures reveals that consumers are generally not well informed, impulsive, hardly critical, and with behavior influenced by habit and suggestion. Training for teachers also include instruction regarding different branches of consumerism. In next is consumer education focuses on both the functional skills and rights. These two elements are inseparable in the sense that awareness of several rights leads to functional skills. And there are also instances when consumer education is conducted for the purpose of changing consumer perceptions as such as the educational drive to increase consumer confidence in, for example, e-commerce. This is the Example of consumer education. And the next is content. Content is traditionally the subject matter taught in consumer education, would be found under the label home economics. Beginning in the late 20th century, however, with the rise of consumerism, the need for an individual to manage a budget, make informed purchases, and save for the future have become paramount. And these the outcomes of consumer education include not only the improved understanding of consumer goods and services, but also increased awareness. These are the traditionally the subject matter taught in consumer education. And the content is the of the consumers' rights in the consumer market and better capability to take actions to improve consumer well-being. And contents included in consumer education also vary from country to country. For instance, for instance, in the United Kingdom, the focus is on the protection of children from the effects of exploitative consumer society. While in the Philippines, the emphasis is more on issues related to the more immediate public interest. Example, boiling water from drinking before drinking it. Examine sugar for impurities. And these the content of the consumer education. And this picture, the eight major groups of the consumer price index in the housing empire and food and beverage, transportation, medical care, education, and communication. These are the major groups of consumer price index. Recreation, other goods and services, all are the groups of the consumer price index. And the next is consumer goods. What are consumer goods? Consumer goods are product bought for consumption by the average consumers. Alternative called final goods. Consumer goods are the end result of production and manufacturing and are what a consumer will see stocked up on the store shelf. And these are the consumer clothing, food, and jewelry are all examples of consumer goods. Basic or raw materials such as copper are not considered consumer goods because they must be transformed into usable products. In the consumer goods, we see the consumer goods or final goods are goods sold to consumer for their own use. or enjoyment, and not as means for further economic production activity. From an economic standpoint, consumer goods can be classified as durable, useful for long than 3 years, non-durable, use for less than 3 years, or pure services consumed instantaneously as they are produced. And for marketing purpose, purposes, consumer goods can be grouped into different categories based on consumer behavior. How consumers shop for them and how frequently consumer shop for them. These are the consumer goods preparation. And next, the consumer goods defined. Goods defined as are tangible goods that are purchased for direct consumption to satisfy a human need or want. This is an contrast to producer goods, which are purchased as an input to produce another good. And for marketing purpose, the as I said, consumer goods are those that are purchased for direct consumption. Consumption in this context does not necessarily means consume as in eat. There are plenty of consumer goods that no one would consider eating, such as clothes. Clothing is a good purchased to satisfy a human need, the need to be clothed. These are the consumer goods as defined. And the next is consumer this image. Consider the this image for the example of the consumer goods. The grapes are an input to making the wine, and therefore the wine is the consumer good, whilst the grapes would be producer goods. This is the example of consumer goods. And the another way to identify a consumer good is to think of a production line. The goods used as inputs at the beginning of the production line are not consumer goods. These would be considered capital or producer goods and might include cloth, plastic, or other materials. The good that is produced and the end of the production line, the clothing item is a consumer good. It is a final good end product made for a buyer to consume. And in this example, let's consider a few items you could easily purchase: milk, television, and any other item you would most likely want to immediately. consume milk. Therefore, it is a consumer goods. And next, the consumer goods is the production of production is two types of production of goods: consumer goods and capital goods. These two types of capital goods is consumer goods produced for direct consumption, and the capital goods producer, this is called producer goods produced for helping production. This is the two types of goods in production. You may want to think of a television as a producer good because it produces entertainment for you. However, television are considered a consumer good because they are not an input to produce another tangible good. It is the good produced at the end of the production line to immediately meet the consumer's need for entertainment. Let us assume most people would not buy lumber without using it to build another product. Since lumber is generally purchased as an input to producing another tangible good, it is a producer good, not a consumer good. And next, we will see the understanding consumer goods. What type of consumer goods are certain goods, such as a bottle of beer for designer t-shirt, are subject to consumption rivalry. If someone drinks the bottle or buy the t-shirt, it is no longer available for anybody else to consume. And because these types of goods can only be used or occupied by one person, competition is created for their consumption. Consumers therefore become rivals in an attempt to obtain them. These are the understanding of consumer goods. And the next is durable versus non-durable goods. This is the two types of goods. Some goods are durable and some are non-durable. In these, sometime revival goods can be reused and by somebody else at a later stage. For example, durable goods such as a stake board might be sold after the current owner is finished with it. And the durable goods are non-durable goods. What is the non-durable goods? A non-durable goods such as a cup of coffee or apple does not fall into this category because it precise after consumption. only one consumer can drink the coffee or eat the apple. After it is gone, there will be nothing left to consume. This is a non durable good. And next, the revival goods versus non revival goods. These are the also two types of goods in there. Goods are either classified as revival or non revival. A revival good is something that can only be processed or consumed by a single user. A good that can be consumed or processed by multiple users, on the other hand, is said to be a non revival good. And we see the internet and radio station is our example of goods that are non revival. Many people can access them at the same time and they can be consumed over and over again without impacting their quality or running the risk that supply will be depleted. These are the revival goods and non revival goods. And next, we see revival goods versus non excludable goods. These are the also two types of goods. Non excludable goods are public goods that cannot include a certain individual or group of individuals from using them. For this reason, it is nearly impossible to restrict access to the consumption of non executable goods. And a public road an example of a non executable goods. Almost everyone has access to a public road, even if they are just walking on it rather than driving a motorized vehicle. And this is the non executable goods. And revival goods? Revival goods are either classified as revival. Revival goods is something that can only be proceed on consumed by a single user. A good that can be consumed or processed by multiple users, on the other hand, is paid to be a non revival goods. And next, the picture of types of producer companies. These are the types of companies: production business, marketing business, technical services business, financing businesses, infrastructure businesses, marketing or promotion of primary processor, or provision of educational services. And the finance production producer activities from production, marketing, or development domain. And the production, procurement, or manufacture of primary produce. And the infrastructure of businesses provides infrastructure to producers in the form of electricity, water resources, irrigation techniques, land utilization, and so on. And the technical services businesses, technical assistance to producers, providing training and educational services, or conducting research and development. And next, these are the producer companies. And the next is spatial consideration. Which type of spatial consideration of consumer goods? The competitive nature of revival goods can increase their value to the individuals who seek them. This is especially true for the travel, hospitality, and entertainment industries. And the next, goods that are revival in consumption can include seats on the airplane or for a Broadway performance. Likewise, they can include a reversed seat at a restaurant. And when this is the spatial consideration, and this picture consumer price index, all times source labor department. This is the housing. Housing is the 43.42% index prices. And next is transportation. Transportation is the 15.31%. And education and communication is the 6.30 communication, apparel, food and beverages, medical care, re- recreation, and other goods and services are also. These are the consumer price index. All items in is there the consumer prices, and source of labor department is also. When demand is high for revival goods, businesses can exert more pricing power. Limited availability coupled with demand gives businesses leave, leeway to set prices higher. And the demand for the revival goods can drive concentrated retail sales and during holiday periods as consumers race to produce items as gifts before they sell out, or while certain discounts are available. This type of shopping behavior has been used to retailers. This is the demand for revival goods and high for revival goods businesses. And next we see the revival goods and FAQs. FAQs and what are the club goods, public goods, private goods, and common goods also. In the field of economics, goods are defined based on excludability and revivalness in their consumption. And the revival goods FAQs are club goods are includable but non-revival cable television is an example for a club good because it can be consumed or processed by multiple users at the same time. But it is includable. Some people are restricted from watching cable television. These are the revival goods and FAQs. And the next is KPI weights 2017. These are the consumer production items, restaurant and hotels, education, recreation and culture, communication, transport, health, furniture, whole household equipment, housing, water, electricity, gas, clothing, and footwear, also alcohol and tobacco, food and drink, and other goods and services also. These are the consumer production items in 2017. And next, we see what is the free rider problem. Free rider problem is the free rider is a phenomenon of the conventional free market system. In it occurs when some members of a community fail to contribute their fair share to the cost of a shared resources. The free rider problem create a burden on a shared resource as a result of its use or overuse. This is the free rider problems. And the next is why can market only provide private goods and efficiently. And this is the markets can only provide private goods and efficiently because of the free rider problem. All goods that are non-excludable suffer from the free rider problem because some individuals are unwilling to pay for their own consumption and instead they will take a free ride on anyone who does pay for the goods. When some people fail to contribute to the production or goods, it makes the resource commonly infeasible to produce. And these are the clubs of goods are includable but non revival. Cable television is an the example of a club good because it can be consumed or processed by multiple users at the same time. These are the goods of produce provide is the private efficiently and the for marketing purpose consumer goods can be grouped into different categories based on consumer behavior, how consumer shop from them, and the clothing, food, and jewelry are all example of consumer goods. Basic, basic of raw materials such as copper are not considered consumer goods because they must be transformed into usable products in the content and include in consumer education also vary from country to country in the focus of on the protection of children from the effects of exploitative consumer society. In this society, alternatively called final goods, consumer goods are the end result of production and manufacturing and are what a consumer will see stocked on the store shelf. And the consumer are those that are purchased for direct consumption. And consumption in this context does not necessarily means consume, as in eat. There are plenty for consumer goods that no one would consider eating, such as clothes. Clothing is a good purchased to satisfy a human need, the need to be clothed. And this is the also about the topic the education as a producer and consumer goods also. This is the topic we discuss education as a processor and consumer goods. And the end of the topics, some references there. These references are help to the these topics. Another matter is there. And the next is some multiple choice question. First question we see, why did the consumer movement arise? High rates of products, total false claims, the desertification of the consumers as many unfair practices where were being indulged by by the sailors and none of the above. The right answer of this question is the dissatisfaction of the consumers as many unfair party practice were being indulged in by the sailors. In the next question, what was the main drawback for the consumer? High rate of final products, no legal system available to consumers to protect them, low quality products, the exploitation of the consumer. What is the right answer? The right answer of this question is no legal system available to consumers to protect them. This is the right answer of this question. And next question is in India, the consumer movement as a dash organized with the necessity of protecting and promoting the interest of consumers against unethical and unfair trade practices. First of all, consumer need, social force, and consumer responsibility, and unhappy consumer. This is what is the answer? The answer is social force. In India, the consumer movement as a social force originated with the necessity of protecting and promoting the interest of consumers against unethical and unfair trade practices. And the next question, when did the consumer movement take birth in an organized form in India? When organized this? The what is the answer of this question now? The 1960s, the 1970s, the 1950s, and the 1980s. The right answer of this question is the 1960s is the right answer. 1960s, the consumer movement took birth in an organized form in India. This is the new started the consumer movement is. And the next question, till the 1970s, consumer organizations were largely engaged in dash low profile activities, violent protests, writing articles, and holding exhibitions and legal justice. What is the right answer? Right answer is writing articles, and holding exhibitions. These are the engaged in till the 1970s. And the next question, a major step take in dash by the Indian government was the enhancement of the Consumer Protection Act. Options are there: 1995, 1986, 1990, and 1992. The right answer of this question is 1986 is the right answer of this question. And the next question is, what are the Consumer Protection Act properly known as, popularly known as OPRA, CPROA, ROACP, COPRA? What is the right answer? The right answer is COPRA is the right answer. And the next question is, what is one of the main duties of the producer? The main duty of the producer is to available low prices, need to strictly follow the required safety rules and regulations, to produce high quality goods, and not to charge taxes. Answer of this question is need to strictly follow the required safety rules and regulations. This is the main duty of the producer. And the next question is, in which a high safety required product, machines, LPG cylinder, pressure cooker, and all. The answer of this question is all. Medicines, LPG cylinder, pressure cooker, all are these the highly safety required products. And the last question and the next question, which product usually has written on it direction for proper use? Option are LPG cylinder, pressure cooker, medicines, and cooking oil. What is the right answer? The right answer is medicines. Medicines is the right answer of this question. This is the all about the topic education as a producer and consumer goods. And at the end of this topic, thank you.